Sometimes the most profound wisdom comes in the simplest packages. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful Chinese proverb. Think of it less as a saying and more like a roadmap for personal growth, for accountability, and ultimately for finding a bit of peace.
Just let that sink in for a second. This is so much more than just a clever saying, right? It's a whole journey laid out in 3 parts. It's basically a map of our relationship with blame, taking us from a place of, total frustration to one of genuine understanding. So let's get into it and break down each stage of this path.
So where do we begin? Well, we start where most of us, if we're being honest, find ourselves at some point or another, right at the very beginning of the road.
This first line, it's just so relatable, isn't it? When something goes wrong, our first instinct can be to look around for something or someone to point the finger at. A person, a situation, anything but ourselves. But what this proverb is telling us is that as long as we're pointing outwards, our real journey, it hasn't even started.
And these points here, they really break down why it's such a long way to go. When your focus is always external, you're literally giving your power away. I mean, think about it. If someone else is the problem, then logically only they can be the solution. And what happens then? Well, your progress stalls out completely. You get stuck in this frustrating cycle where you're just waiting for the world around you to change.
But of course, the journey doesn't just stop there. The proverb guides us to this huge pivotal shift in perspective. This is the real turning point, where actual change starts to become possible. And wow, this slide just lays it out so clearly. Look at that shift. The focus snaps from external to internal. The power that you'd given away, you're taking it back. This is that light bulb moment where you realize, okay, I have a role to play here. And just like that, progress, which had been totally stuck, finally starts to move. It's like you've grabbed the steering wheel again.
Now, this feels like a massive victory, and it is. Taking ownership is a huge step, but that brings up a really interesting question. Why does the proverb say this is only halfway there? I mean, if we're taking responsibility and we're finally making progress, what more could there possibly be?
Well, that brings us to the final, most profound, and maybe the most challenging stage of this whole journey, the destination.
So this is the big one. What does it actually mean to blame no one? Does it mean you just become a doormat that you ignore when things go wrong? Is it about just pretending problems don't exist? Well, no, not at all.
First, let's be super clear about what this isn't. It is not ignorance. You're fully aware of the facts, of the actions, and all the consequences. You actually see the situation with total clarity, maybe even more clearly than ever before.
And it is definitely not apathy. Blaming no one doesn't mean you've stopped caring. Not one bit. Your desire for a good outcome, for things to be fair, for improvement, all of that is still very much alive and well.
So if it's not ignorance and it's not apathy, then what is it? It's a form of profound inner peace. And that peace comes from a much, much deeper level of understanding. This definition just nails it. It's radical acceptance. It's this understanding that life is complex, that people are complicated products of their own experiences. And when you can see that bigger picture, that simple emotional need to assign fault, it just kind of dissolves. All that mental energy you used to spend on finding who to blame, it's now freed up to actually find a solution. That's where the peace comes from. It's not from inaction, it's from effective action.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and bring this all together, looking at the path as one complete journey of awareness.
And here it is, laid out, plain and simple, the full progression. You start out at the beginning, blaming others, feeling pretty powerless. Then you make that critical shift. You start looking inward, blaming yourself, and that lets you reclaim your power. And finally, that opens the door to arriving, where you blame no one and you find this wisdom that operates way beyond just needing to find fault.
And I think this right here is the most important takeaway of all. The goal isn't to be perfect, to live in that arrived state 24/7. Come on, we're human. We're going to find ourselves at different points on this path on different days, maybe even in different hours. The real wisdom is just being aware that the path exists and knowing where you are on it at any given moment.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. As you think about the challenges that are in your life right now, just ask yourself, where on this path are you today? It's a powerful question. And the answer, well, it might just show you the next step forward. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.